Hi, my name's Ben Martin, and if you're just tuning into this channel, welcome. Disciple Parenting is a channel devoted to how can we better disciple our kids? How can we lead them to Jesus? In this video, we're going to be talking about sibling rivalry. I do not doubt for a moment that any of you are wondering what that is. So without further ado, let's get into it. I am no stranger to sibling rivalry. I grew up with two older brothers and a younger sister. I was that stereotypical middle child who I felt like I had to fight for attention. And so sibling rivalry was definitely a thing. And so reading up on it, it makes sense. But there are some things that make sense, and there's some things that don't actually, because there's a lot of research on sibling rivalry. In fact, if you were to Google it, you'll find tons of articles with long lists of steps that you can do to address sibling rivalry, but none of them actually are dealing with the cause. And so what I want to do is I want to first talk about a few pointers that make sense, and then I want to really get into the heart of sibling rivalry. Talking about the way we operate our families, and does it even make sense from a biblical perspective? So, first of all, let's talk about three things that we can do to deal with the issue of sibling rivalry. The first thing in dealing with the issue of sibling rivalry is to remember that equality doesn't mean the same. To treat your kids equally doesn't necessarily that means that you treat each of them the same, because each of them has different personalities. Each of them has different needs, different wants, different desires. And so to treat each of them the same wouldn't actually be equality. And so figuring out what works and loving your kids equally is hugely important. The second thing that is key in dealing with sibling rivalry is teaching empathy. We've actually made a video already talking about how to teach empathy to your kids. But empathy is huge. If you want your kids to start loving each other, then teaching them to understand each other's feelings, to process it from their siblings' perspective is critical. And the last thing is often sibling rivalry is just boiled down to, hey, my kids are fighting. What do I do? And I had two older brothers. Fighting was a part of growing up. And as wonderful as it would be to figure out how to eliminate all fighting in our homes and make sure that our kids never disagree, let's be realistic. And what to me is actually more important than the fight is, how do you resolve those differences? Because if we can learn how to resolve our differences, we can resolve those things before we get into the fight. So helping your kids, equipping them to manage their feelings, their expectations, their desires, and to treat each other with respect. And so helping them understand how to resolve. And so as a parent, you've got to start paying attention. What are those triggers that are setting these fights off? What are those feelings below the surface that are coming into play? And then helping your kids process those things so that they're equipped to resolve the things before they turn into full-blown fights. But honestly, sibling rivalry by nature is countercultural to the biblical narrative. And what do I mean by that? Is that rivalry in general doesn't make sense from the Bible's perspective. You see, rivalry happens when there's a resource or a commodity that is limited. And so we believe that, like, okay, if you get all of this resource, then I don't get any. And we have all kinds of sayings in our language, and I'm guessing every language, that sort of articulate this fear or this desire. The early bird gets the worm. Meaning, if you don't get there first, someone else is going to get it, and you're going to miss out. So you better get out there. You better get on top of it. You better do it. And we raise our kids with this perspective, which is good. It's a good motivator. It gets them going, but it doesn't work in the home, because this is pitting us against each other. And as a family, that's not what makes sense. That's not what we desire. And so rather, instead of like saying, okay, early bird gets the worm, I have another little saying that I've heard over the last few years that I think better articulates what families should be experiencing. And that is, a rising tide raises all boats. And what that means is, a win for someone in the family is a win for everyone in the family. You see, the commodities that we find ourselves fighting over aren't actually limited resources. I mean, yes, time is a limited resource, but love isn't. You see, the more we love, the more love there is. And so it's not something that somehow, if I use up my love on my one child, my other child is going to be lacking. No. If I pour out more love into one child, there's more love also for the second child. We don't run out of love. And actually, the biblical perspective is saying, hey, as a family, we put others first. We put their desires first. We put their needs first. And it's when we put others first that we really have family. Now, this is a lot to have philosophy and different things about competition versus cooperation. And it's easy to get caught up in all of this and say, okay, but what does this mean to my family? I mean, do I just tell my kids, hey, you're not competing and then it's over? No. I mean, I wish that it was that easy, but we're talking about a culture shift, and culture shifts don't happen with just like saying this is no longer true. It has to be modeled. So, as a parent, how are you modeling competition? When your family sits down to play a game, what is the purpose of playing the game? Is the purpose simply to win, or is it purpose to have fun as a family together? And then as you play that game, is that purpose clear? Is your family, as you're playing the game together, is it enough that you're just playing together? Are you having fun? That should be our goal. How are you modeling competition? When you drive down the road, when you cut other people off, when you have those little expressions of road rage that come out, how are you modeling competition? When someone has treated you unkindly or unfairly, how are you modeling competition? If we want to end sibling rivalry in our homes, then we've got to change our behavior as parents. And we've got to make it clear, this family, we're one. And so if child A succeeds in something, that is a win for the family. If child A fails at something, hey, the family, we just lost out on that one. Because we're all in this together. So, sit down with your kids. Make sure that each and every one of them knows that you love them beyond all reasonable belief. But also, as you read through the story of the cross, take into account what the God of the universe has given up for you to show you how much he loves you. And he's called you his child. But also, that person at work who never treats you with respect, it's his child too. That bully from high school who their words still seem to haunt you, that person is as much a child of God as you or I. And so, if we really want to deal with sibling rivalry, the answer is found in the gospel. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have never clicked that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. We'll see you next week. Bye.